Now we're going to talk about some of the different things about Gottlieb System1 and the other pinball manufacturers, some routes that they took that were a little different, the oddities, as you may, of the Gottlieb System1 games. For example, their handling of the slam switch, the different score displays, the way that they handled the pop bumpers and the slingshots, the under-playfield transistors, under-playfield relays, the Achilles heel on the system, card edge connectors. All the boards are off the ground plane so that the ground on the board doesn't actually talk to the ground on this metal plane. So Gottlieb did a number of things differently than the other manufacturers. And a lot of them aren't necessarily any better or worse, they're just different and people aren't used to them. So that's why you hear a lot of resistance when people talk about working on Gottlieb System1s or Gottlieb System1 Oddities. I'm going to turn the game on and you'll notice that there's a 5-second delay between when I hit power and the score displays actually light up. So let's try it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you could also probably hear that click. These two relays mounted under the playfield, the tilt relay and the game over relay, always pull in for just a second. Of course, this does assume that the solenoid fuse on the bottom panel down there is good, but that's what these two guys should do. We'll try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is a normal boot up procedure for any System1 game, is to hear those relays click. The game over or flipper relay is mounted underneath the playfield on Gottlieb's compared to most other manufacturers, all other manufacturers, that put the relay on their driver board. But for some reason Gottlieb used an old EM style relay, maybe because they had an abundance of them, and mounted it under the playfield. Another interesting difference on Gottlieb games is the use of how they incorporated the slam switch into the game. The slam switch is right here on the coin door, and on most games it's an open switch, and if somebody kicks the door, it closes the switch and slams the game, which means it will remove the current game or it will remove a credit or whatever the manufacturer wanted. Gottlieb's slam switch right here is normally closed, which means that if for some reason it opens up for any reason over its life, the game will not work. Likewise, there's a tilt switch here where there's a ball that rolls up and down this runway here, and if it hits this switch again, this is a normally closed switch, and if it opens up, the game will not start. And you can always tell a game that's slam tilted by how the score displays act. Now I'm going to open the slam switch on the coin door, and you can see what the displays do. See how they kind of flicker? It's almost like they're rolling, but the zeros are all kind of flickering. That means the game is slammed. So here, I'll unslam it, and now again, you'll see it go to the high score of 180,000, hopefully. There it is, 183,000. And then if I slam it, you'll see the displays just go to that flicker mode. And the reason I bring this up is because if one of the connectors on the CPU board is damaged from that battery corrosion, the game will boot up in slam tilt mode and will never come out of that mode. So that's why it's kind of important to be able to identify a Gottlieb that's been slam tilted. Another interesting thing is, if you turn the game off and I turn it back on with the slam switch open, you'll notice that there's no 5-second delay. The game immediately goes to slam mode where the displays are flickering. And then I close it, and we'll still get our 5-second delay, and then the game will go into a track mode showing us the high score. The use of these score displays, instead of using the gas plasma high voltage displays that ran at plus and minus 100 volts, Gottlieb uses these Futaba displays that run at 60 volts, or the small credit display that runs at 42 volts. So there's just something different than the other manufacturers. Under playfield mounted transistors, like they didn't have enough transistors on the driver board, they obviously during the design underestimated the number of playfield devices that they were going to control through the computer system, so that they had to use lamp driver transistors to trigger much larger metal case transistors mounted underneath the playfield. Again, only manufacturer to do that. They were the only company during this era that did things that way, where they had this additional big transistor under the playfield. Also, the pop bumpers and the slingshots are not computer controlled. So here's the slingshot assembly on this Joker poker, and what happens is that when the top switch closes from the ball, it kicks, and then it closes a redundant switch up here which actually scores the points, but the actual kicking of this unit is not done from the computer. It is all like electromechanical era style. Also, the pop bumpers were, again, the same way. Controlled when the ball hits the skirt on the top, it closes a secondary switch right here, which actually does the scoring for the game. It's kind of unusual that the computer didn't have any control over that, over the pop bumpers and the slingshots, that it was just kind of EM style where, you know, the ball closed the switch and the switch was directly connected to power, and it made the kickers kick. Some other System1 oddities under the playfield have to do with the switches. Like, for instance, here we've got switches up here on the drop target assembly, and I got a rollover switch over here. But you'll notice that there's no diodes mounted directly on the switch matrix switches. Instead, Gottlieb uses this two-tiered Bakelite diode holder for each one of the switches. So if you're used to working on Williams and Bally games that have the switches mounted right on the diode, you're not used to seeing this. Another weird thing about System1 games are the built-in diagnostics. If I press the coin door diagnostic switch, the game will go into audits/diagnostics, but first it shows you the audits. So on the display here, it'll show me the audit number, then up in player one it'll show me what the value is. And it's kind of weird in that we're going through them that we see the audits first, compared to, say, Bally, where you get the diagnostics first and then the audits. So apparently Gottlieb felt the audits were more important, and then you get to number 11 and it tests the score displays on the left hand side. Then you press it again, you get number 12, and it'll press the score displays on the right hand side. Then I'm going to press it again for 13, and it's going to test the playfield lights and the solenoids and the switches. So all the CPU controlled lamps go on for 5 seconds, then they all go off. Then the solenoid test goes. 8 of the solenoids, including the sound solenoids, go. When that's done, you go to the switch test, and you got 5 seconds to get a switch closed in the switch test, or the game will go back to a track mode. It's really not very friendly. And the switch test is incredibly slow, like 1, 2, okay, it took 2 seconds for the switch number to come up on the display. If I don't touch it for 5 seconds, the game will just go right back into a track mode. Oh, and that's the other weird thing. In a track mode on System1 games, there's absolutely no flashing lights. I mean, the playfield does nothing. Like here we are in a track mode, and I got nothing. It's really odd. But that's how they did it in System1 games. Here's my test rig for the Gottlieb System1. You want to learn about a game, build a test rig. You'll learn a lot. Let's add a couple credits to the test rig. Start a game. And we're ready to play.